I'd like to open PBD Planning Board meeting for June 10th, 2020, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting will be held on a virtual platform, Zoom, and will be televised by PBD Access TV. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 21st, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the minutes of, I already forgot the date, May 21st, 2020.
Second.
Second, Mr. Gagnon. We have a roll call for the balance, please.
Yep. Just pull up. Miss Otto.
Yes.
Mr. Feld.
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon.
Yes.
Mr. Simoes.
Yes.
Mr. Ginzali.
Yes.
Mr. Betancourt.
Yes.
Motion passes.
A&R and Land Court? Well, none.
Nope, none. There's none this week.
Any further on site building permit plan review for Winoma?
Yep, Mr. Chair, Will Politz is in attendance. I'm gonna unmute him right now. And I'm gonna share my screen and present said plans.
Hi, good evening. William Politz with the Department of Public Services. So this evening we're in front of you for site plan approval for the Winona Water Treatment Plant, which we listed as 0 Winona Street, 0 Grant Street, 0 Blake Street, 0 Scribner Road, AKA 38 Butternut Ave is how our department refers to it. It's approximately 150 acre, multiple parcels equaling about 150 acres of land. So we're in front of you this evening because we're actually looking to reconstruct the Winona Water Treatment Plant. It was constructed in 1971 and has exceeded its useful life expectancy. And we need the plant to be able to produce approximately 3 million gallons a day in order to provide the residents of West Peabody and the service area for the plant, which the plant is having a hard time doing, and it's now in non-compliance due to some issues age-related at the plant. So as many of you probably have seen, if you've been out and about on Lowell Street, all the construction out on Lowell Street is actually a predecessor to this project, and it's National Grid upgrading the gas lines in order for our department, which is now actively installing a 16-inch water main with 2 different contractors, Rivoli Construction and Albanese DNS. We're actually constructing the 16-inch water main from the intersection of Brown and Lynn Street all the way out to Route 1 to tie into a project that we completed last summer out in the Route 1 area. And the purpose for that is in order to construct the project at the Winona Water Treatment Plant, we're going to need to take the plant partially offline for the majority of the time and actually take it fully offline twice, January through April for the year 2021 and January through April for the year 2022. So the 16-inch water main and associated pump house at the corner of Lowell and Baldwin will supplement the water treatment plant as we do that. So it's a pretty large project, but mainly what we're here for this evening is we have to actually do 2 expansions to the building. So we're keeping the building primarily as it is, but we need to make a modification to the front entrance to be in compliance with ADA standards. And we also need to extend out the side of the building. So Drew, I don't know which.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. It's I'm sharing page 14 right now with everyone.
So
Can you see
that kind of gives you a sense of where the property lies. I'm sure most of you are well aware of it. I'm not sure how many of you have actually been on the property itself. Drew, if you want to go to 22, it'll give you a sense of the building. So we were in front of the Conservation Commission. I did not do the presentation myself. That page there, Drew. But we did obtain a order of conditions through the Conservation Commission, and we will be going in front of the City Council for a special permit. And we're in front of you this evening because we need to, as I said, the bottom picture shows the front entrance of the building. So we'll need to reconstruct that for ADA purposes. And then the middle and top picture kind of show the same part of the back of the building, which will be expanding out to the right of the loading dock. Drew, if you want to go to sheet, I think it's going to be 168. If not, it's 159. I'm not sure how the PDF.
Yeah, I'm gonna scroll all the way down. We'll see what happens here.
Okay.
It might take me a-
So we need to expand out the back end of it by approximately 1,000 square feet. Yeah, so that kind of gives you a sense of the where it lies in the property there. And then if you can go to a little bit more down into the
sorry.
Or if you want to go, you know, the renderings, Drew, if you want to go to one page before the rendering,
Sorry, do you know what page that is?
it's going to be the very end of the project, very end.
Right.
I would say stop. I would just go up probably about 6 pages, maybe. Oh, and there you go. Oh, that was perfect.
Sorry.
You want to go back there? You can keep them both open. One more. There you go. All right, so there's a slab foundation plan on the left, and there's the rendering on the right. So as I said, the ADA compliance issue for the front entrance, that's sort of shown on the left plan in the bottom middle of the building. That's the front entrance. And then off to the left, there's about 1,000-foot expansion, which on the pictures you saw previously was to the right of the loading dock. The reason for the 1,000-square-foot expansion is due to compliance issues with chemical storage. So certain chemicals can't be stored in the same area as other chemicals, and they need a certain amount of area to be stored in. So that's the purpose of that. But the real purpose of the whole project is to basically rebuild this plant while keeping it pretty much operational other than a few shutdowns, and try to rebuild it in order to provide better drinking water for the residents that are serviced by this district, and actually probably looking to increase the service size of the district. So the property is about 150 acres. So we're in an R1 district. We meet all the setbacks. Front setbacks 25, we're over 1,500 feet. Side setbacks 30, we're at 170. Rears 35, and we're over 1,200. The max height's 30. I believe we're putting in our addition around 17. In the lot coverage, we're way below. I think 98% of the property will be pretty much equivalent to open space at the end of the day. It'll take about 2 years. There is a typo in the document we provided. I think we had an end date of December 2021. It's actually probably closer to December 2022. It's about a 2-year project. So majority of the stuff isn't changing. We have stormwater, as I said, was went through CONSCOM, but majority of the site's not being modified. It's really just the building kind of being gutted from the inside, except for the ADA and the storage issues. So I know I kind of just threw a lot at you, but I don't know if you have any questions in respect to what we're looking to do this evening.
This time we'll entertain questions from the board.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now, if that's okay with everyone.
Do we have any questions from the board? Dr. Otto?
Could we take a quick peek at the site plan itself? In particular, Will, I'm interested in modifications to the paved surface, if any.
Sure. So Drew,
I have page here. Sorry, now that I've gone, let me just share my screen again, Will, and you can tell me what one works best with you.
I think those would be, actually, I think you probably hit it right there, Drew. Oh, if you want to go back. So there is a small expansion of the parking in order to, we're pushing the parking back a little bit because of the expansion of the building. So there is some additional parking. There's actually no additional parking being proposed. One of the spots is becoming ADA accessible. And then part of it's being expanded out. So they did take into account, Weston and Sampson did the plans and the stormwater. So they did take into account the expansion of the parking and the entrances coming in. But primarily, the majority of the paved areas really aren't changing too much. The very long entranceway in shouldn't be being modified, and the loop around the building isn't being expanded, but we are expanding the parking depth to the south. As you see on the plan, there's about 7 spots, and that's being pulled out a little bit.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board?
I
Roy?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I think it's a big waste of time for the city to be having to do all these presentations. I think these things should be exempted, but that's just me. No further comment.
Drew, is this a recommendation to the city council for approval, or is this building?
So this is a site plan review. Anything over 1,000, any addition over 1,000 square feet requires a site plan review. That's why it's in front of the board. So this would be a recommendation to the building inspector for a building permit. That being said, they still need to go in front of city council, correct, Will?
That is correct.
At this time, I will accept a motion. Dr. Otto?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board recommend to the building inspector to issue a building permit for the Winona Pond Water Treatment Plant, subject to all other permits being in place.
We have a second.
Second.
Dennis Phelps, second.
Okay. Roll call. Sorry, let me just get the sheet back up.
You want to do the roll call?
Yep, sorry, I'm just. Ms. Otto,
Yes,
Mr. Feld,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Simoes,
Yes.
Mr. Betancourt,
Yes.
Mr. Ginzali.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Will, I'll get a memo with the motion sheet drafted and sent out to Altel Rico tomorrow on this, but I know you probably won't start getting working because you still need to go in front of city council. Sounds.
Correct. Thank you very much, Drew, and thank you very much, members of the planning board, for your time this evening.
thanks,
Thank
Will.
you.
All right, have a good
Thank
night.
you. You're welcome.
Appointments, Mr. Kelty?
So it looks like Jack is going to become a panelist here because there he is. He should be on right now to allow him to speak. There you go.
Go ahead, Jack.
Can you hear us, Jack? There's 2 Jacks actually, so let's ask the second one, I think.
So I had to unmute,
Oh.
is that the case?
There you go. Yep, now we can hear you.
All right. So do you know, are you hearing me through the computer or are you hearing me through my phone?
We are hearing you through your computer, but it sounds like you have a phone open.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
I shut off the phone, it won't damage.
No.
Great. Okay, I am here this evening. I had asked, one of the members of the board had asked about whether or not there was going to be a presentation. I think Roy had asked that. And I had sent you a letter extending it, your action until next week. I then realized that our plans had not been submitted to Meridian until late last week, and payment was made early this week. And Mr. Politz has verified that Meridian Engineering has been officially engaged. So we thought better than to make a formal presentation without seeing Meridian's comments. So I will be sending a letter and I will verbally request an extension for this matter until July 23rd, in as much as I think you've got a meeting in 2 weeks, but then one meeting in July, which is the 23rd. I don't know if you've discussed, I don't think you've discussed your schedule yet, but that should give us plenty of time for the Meridian Engineering to review and for us to get back to the board. Issues to be discussed. One of them will be the board's satisfaction with our treatment of the access through Juniper Village condominium. We are going to access up from Linfield Street, Ralph Road, and cut the access through the Juniper Village condominium and turn into street name, I think that is Garrity. I also think that we need to consider whether or not Innes Road, as it appears on our plans currently, should remain Innes Road if it's not actually going to connect to the portion of Innes Road that is in Juniper Village. So I think that's a matter for the board to consider, whether there should be a separate and distinct name for that straightaway that runs through our subdivision, which is currently referred to as Innes Road. Other considerations are, I'm going to be sending a letter to the city council requesting that we locate our pump station on city-owned land. That area is at the corner of Linfield and Linfield Street and Bartholomew Street. Beyond the land that was purchased from Mr. Polino, that is some 40,000 square foot lot. It extends to a kind of a point down on Bartholomew Street along the straightaway of and it joins, it ends in a point at Linfield Street, I'm sorry, and runs parallel, the lot runs parallel to Bartholomew Street. And then at the end, there is, what is it, a rock or a sign or that suggests that Juniper Village is in the back, or maybe the Mr. Gass's subdivision, the earlier subdivision that's just up to the left. But I believe there's some sort of a identification marker, and there is also a bus stop there, and it is all on city land. And we would like to put our pump station on that city land. So that would require because it will best operate from that elevation, and it will not, we believe, will not provide any kind of interference from a noise perspective with any of our neighbors. We could bring it upwards and put it on the, I think that's Pearl Street, the extension of Pearl Street that was never built upon. We've had a discussion about giving that undeveloped roadway to the neighbors to the left and right of it. We've not had a response from the neighbors to the left and as to whether they would like us to deed that land. But if we were to put the pump station there, we do believe that it would be especially close to neighbors who aren't involved in this subdivision, and who it would also be a little bit less accessible access for when the city eventually takes over the pump station and maintains it. So I will be sending a letter to the council trying to, and I will have a plan that'll identify the actual location of the pump station, and we'll go through that process so as to be given permission to construct the pump station on city land. And then at such time as the subdivision is fully built out and developed, it is our expectation that the city would take over the pump station and include it in their portfolio, if you will, of their water supply system. And if it is on city property, then there is no need for an easement, or there'd be no discussion at a later date of ownership and access, et cetera. Other issues that we'll wait for the Meridian review and respond to that and be at the board meeting to discuss all of that at least by July 23rd.
Dr. Otto?
My calendar shows that our meeting in July is on the 16th. Am I incorrect?
Yep. So I was going to discuss this
Yeah,
at the end
my
here.
extension is 1 week longer. I always extend 1 week.
Okay, so you're requesting extension for exactly to the 23rd.
Right, and I think that your meeting is the 16th.
Okay,
It is. Yeah.
thank you.
Could we accept a motion on his request to extend time to the July 23rd? Dr. Otto?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the request to extend this subdivision, the board's time to action until July 23rd, 2020.
We have a second? Dennis Feld, thank you.
Roll call. Ms. Otto,
Yes,
Mr. Feld,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Simoes,
Yes.
Mr. Betancourt,
Yes,
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
motion carried, unanimous. Roy?
You have a couple of comments if you'll allow through the chair.
Sure.
So regarding that pump station, I opened up my other computer to show the city's assessors maps, and I just caution you, Jack, to watch the sight lines coming out of Bartholomew Street because of the way the traffic comes out there. That it looks like your client has plenty of land that they could easily cut a little chunk off and deed it to the city, and keep it a little bit off the sight line. So I hope that's considered, and because the city property is not that big right there. So that's
No, it is not.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So the other thing that you mentioned about Innes Road certainly makes perfect sense, because you wouldn't want a 911 call coming in for Innes Road, and then they come up through Sarah's Way, and then find out that they're on the wrong segment of the street. So that's certainly a topic to be ironed out. But upon your mention of that, I remember that when we were getting on the final, dotting the I's and crossing the T's with Boulderwood, there was a presentation made, and there was a bunch of streets named after veterans. Now that was kind of a catch-up thing, and they named a lot of streets, and almost all of them except for maybe the two beginning streets that had already been named, like Gedney, and I forgot the name of the other one, but
No, Gedney is in ours. I don't think Gedney's in David Solomani's.
no, that's Gedney.
Okay, all right.
Yep. But all I'm saying is that I think the protocol, and maybe Judy could correct me because she's probably, longer sitting, or Tom Betancourt. I thought the protocol was that every other new street, it went veteran's name, then choice of developer, then veteran's name, then choice of developer. So in this case, I've got to imagine that it's either one or two streets there should fall under that protocol. So that's all.
If I may, I think Councilor Turco might have a recommendation with respect to a veteran's name.
I believe he
Okay.
does.
I just don't want to have to do what we did at Boulderwood and, to play catch up. That's all. That's it for me.
Any other questions? Hearing none, move on to any city council.
No correspondence from the city council, but I have something for other matters before the board.
Okay, go ahead.
Just so this week we had the meeting on Wednesday, and a week after then, just due to the mayor's special meeting and city council's tomorrow. Our next meeting would be next week on the 18th, because this would be quite the quick turnaround. I was thinking that the meeting could be pushed to the 25th, which would then, our next meeting after that, just go to our regularly scheduled July meeting again, which would be the 16th. So instead of having our meeting June 18th, we would just have the meeting June 25th, and then just go back into our regular schedule in July.
Anybody have any feelings about that?
Is June 25th a Wednesday or Thursday?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
I'm fine with it, Drew. I have no plans ever.
I am as well.
I think, do we need to have a motion on this, or?
We didn't have a motion on the last one.
You didn't, all you have to do is
Yeah.
post it.
I guess, yeah, I'll just make sure it's posted in all the right places.
Any other matters before the board? This time I'll accept the motion.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
You have a second?
Second.
Dennis Phelps?
All right, roll call. Miss Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Feld,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Mr. Simoes,
Yeah.
Mr. Bencourt,
Yes.
Mr. Zanzali. All right, 7:26 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.